I met a 76-year-old Canadian woman on Friday. She went elbows up months ago, buys Canadian, shops Canadian, supports Canadian businesses. Good for her. Then I looked at her investment portfolio, 70% American stocks. Her entire financial security depends on U.S. corporations and U.S. markets. Now, here's my position. Canadians have a false sense of security about American investments. I call it recency bias. The U.S. has done well lately, so we assume it always will. But the U.S. isn't like Canada when it comes to financial security. And I can prove it. Let me show you what I mean. Before I show you where to bring your money, I need to show you what Canadian financial institutions survived. This is the Canadian prime rate from 1935 to 2013. Look at this arc. Prime hit 22.75% in 1981. Then it collapsed all the way to 3 and lower. And it stayed there for years. Now, while this collapse was great for mortgages and stock markets, it was the worst possible scenario for any investment based on fixed income, bonds, GICs, and life insurance participating accounts. Canadian life insurance dividends rates were above 12% when rates were high. And as prime collapsed, those dividend rates came down gradually from 12% to where they sit today, 5.5% to 6.4% across every major Canadian carrier. Not a single major Canadian carrier failed. Dividends were paid every single year. Some of these companies have been paying since 1848. That's the Canadian financial system. That's what you're investing in when you invest in Canadian life insurance. Compared to what? Let's look south. Here we go. The evidence. In Canada, 0 major carrier failures. The dividend scale interest rate between 5.5 and 6.4% today. Dividends have been paid every year since 1848. Confederation Life was backed up by Assura's full policyholder recovery. It's regulated, stress tested, smooth returns. And here's the United States. Executive Life collapsed in 1991. 400,000 policyholders. Benefits severely reduced. Annuitants got 70 cents on the dollar. It took 16 years of litigation to recover $930 million. Those people suffered. And here's AIG, right? We have AIG, the largest insurance company in the world. They needed $180 billion in government bailouts. The Federal Reserve took 80% ownership just to keep it alive. Executives used that money to pay themselves $165 million in bonuses with taxpayer money. The company posted the largest corporate loss in American history. That's the financial system your portfolio was 70% invested in. That's where the 76-year-old woman's wealth sits. That's where most Canadians' wealth sits. The complication. Here's what nobody's connecting. Elbows up isn't just your shopping cart. It's your capital allocation. Diversify back to Canada. Some of your wealth. Consider it. We're secure and we're safe. Elbows up isn't just about ketchup and beer. It's about where your wealth lives, where your financial security comes from, where your family's future is invested. You can't predict the future. I can't either. But I can tell you this. If 70% of your portfolio is riding on American corporations and American markets, you're not diversified enough. You are concentrated in a country that has a very different track record than ours when things go wrong. There is a Canadian alternative. Participating whole life insurance, Canadian companies, Canadian regulation, Canadian participating accounts that are invested in Canadian infrastructure, Canadian bonds, Canadian mortgages, Canadian real estate. It's not exciting. It's boring. The dividend rate, 6%, is not 20%. You won't brag about it at a dinner party. But it's Canadian. It's guaranteed. And it's been paying since before this country existed. Bringing a portion of your wealth home to Canada. That's elbows up. That's diversification. That's what this is about. Here's the principle. I can't predict whether U.S. markets will go up or down. Nobody can. But I can measure your exposure. And if 70% of your wealth depends on American corporations, you're not elbows up. You're elbows down with the Canadian flag on your bumper. Allocating a portion of your wealth to Canadian participating whole life doesn't mean abandoning equities. It means diversifying. It means having a piece of your family's wealth that is guaranteed, tax-free, Canadian regulated, and completely independent of what happens on Wall Street. Compared to what? Compared to hoping the next decade will look like the last one. That's not a plan. That's a wish. I say diversify carefully, allocate deliberately, bring some of it home. Here's my challenge. Open up your portfolio, add up the US exposure, and if it's over 50%, your financial security is more dependent on American corporations than Canadian ones. And you're the one buying Canadian ketchup. Here's my bias. I think every Canadian family should have a portion of their wealth in a Canadian life insurance company that's been paying dividends for 175 years. I don't say all of it, not all of it, a portion. The boring, stable, guaranteed portion. The portion that doesn't care what Wall Street does tomorrow. Our job is to educate. Yours is to choose. Send me your portfolio allocation. I'll show you your real Canadian exposure because I can measure where your wealth actually lives. I say bring it home. This is Jeff Kate. Elbows up.